You don't always need a breakthrough to feel better. You don't need a new morning routine, a perfect mindset, or another productivity hack to return to yourself. Sometimes all you need is a gentle shift, a small interruption to the pattern you've been stuck in, a subtle change that doesn't demand effort, only awareness. We live in a time where self-care is often sold as something big. Meditate, journal, work out, breathe deeply. And while all of these have value, many of us are too overwhelmed to begin with those. When the mind is foggy, when the heart is heavy, when the nervous system is overstimulated, what we really need isn't another task. It's a moment of clarity, a soft return to something true, something simple, something manageable. That's what this episode is about. These aren't grand gestures or time-consuming rituals. They're quiet, daily habits, hidden recalibrations, things you can do anywhere, in seconds, without tools, without planning. Because your mind doesn't need more input. It needs space. And your emotions don't need to be fixed. They need to be heard, moved, honored. The Stoics would have called these moments philosophical practice, gentle reminders that we are not machines, that we don't always have to optimize, that sometimes, to come back to ourselves, we must return to what is most basic: breath, body, attention, and intention. So if you're tired of overthinking, if your emotional world feels too loud, if your motivation has been running on empty, this is your invitation to slow down, to recalibrate, to meet your mind with kindness and your emotions with curiosity. Let's explore 10 subtle yet powerful daily habits that don't require discipline, only presence. You won't need a gym, a journal, or a silent retreat. All you'll need is to be where you are. 1. Ask yourself one honest question each morning. Before you scroll, before you check your calendar, before you touch the noise of the world, pause. Sit on the edge of your bed. Let the silence settle. Feel the weight of your own presence. And ask yourself, not out of habit, but out of genuine intention, how am I really? That's it. One question. But not a surface one, not the polite, automatic "I'm fine" that we've learned to throw into the mirror like a placeholder for presence. This is an invitation, a moment of meeting yourself at the threshold of a new day. Not to plan, not to fix, not to inspire, but to see what's real inside you. This habit, practiced daily, is more powerful than any app or journal, because we live in a world that teaches us to perform before we pause, to react before we reflect. You wake up and within seconds, your brain is already online, scanning, preparing, comparing, and in that rush, your actual emotional state gets buried beneath the urgency of doing. But the Stoics, especially Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, knew something we forget. Awareness must come before action. Seneca wrote that each evening he would review his day, asking where he fell short, where he remained virtuous, where he allowed emotion to distort clarity. But just as important as evening reflection is the morning check-in, the moment of pause before momentum takes over. Let's make this practical. You wake up. Instead of grabbing your phone or going straight into a routine, you take a few deep breaths and ask, how am I really? Maybe you realize you feel anxious, not because anything happened, but because your body is still carrying yesterday's tension. Or maybe you feel emotionally numb, or hopeful, or sad, or restless. The point is not to judge what arises. The point is to notice. And in that noticing, something subtle happens. The mind begins to soften. The nervous system starts to regulate, because what we resist tightens. But what we acknowledge begins to release. You're telling your inner world, I see you, I'm here. That's not indulgence, that's intelligence, emotional intelligence. Most people spend their entire day misaligned because they started it on autopilot. They override how they feel with caffeine, to-do lists, and pressure to perform. But when you pause to ask yourself honestly how you're doing, you move through the day with a different kind of grace. You make different choices. You speak differently. You respond instead of react. You don't need a therapist in that moment. You need presence. And no, this isn't about wallowing in feelings or making every morning heavy. Sometimes the answer will be light. I'm excited. I feel ready. I'm at peace. Beautiful. Celebrate that. Anchor it. Other times, you may discover something aching for attention, a thought, a doubt, a fear you didn't know was still there. Don't run. Sit with it. That act alone is healing, because self-avoidance doesn't protect you, it splits you. But self-honesty, that's how you come back into wholeness. You might even add a follow-up question. What do I need this morning? Not a life plan, just a need. Maybe you need more quiet, maybe movement, maybe to cancel something, maybe to speak kindly to yourself. Let it be small, let it be human. Over time, this daily habit becomes a thread, a quiet ritual, a conversation that weaves you back into yourself. And from that center, you begin to live less from performance and more from presence. You don't need to journal it, share it, or even act on it immediately. Just ask, every day. And over time, you'll notice something shift. You'll stop abandoning yourself so easily. You'll feel less like a stranger to your own body. You'll begin to build your day from the inside out. So tomorrow morning, before the world demands your energy, give some of it to yourself. Look inward and ask, how am I really? Because that single moment of truth might be the most important thing you do all day. 2. Change your physical perspective. Once a day. What if one of the easiest ways to shift your mental and emotional state was simply to move a few inches differently? Not with intensity, not with a fitness goal, just a change in perspective, literally. Sit somewhere new. Lie down on the floor. Stand on your toes and look out a window you've ignored. Take your coffee while sitting on the staircase instead of your usual chair. These sound trivial, but when practiced with presence, they carry a kind of subtle magic. They disrupt the monotony that numbs us, and they create a window for awareness to return. The human mind is incredibly sensitive to environment, even small details. Your thoughts are shaped by the position of your body, the light around you, the air you breathe, the silence or noise that surrounds you. And yet, most people live within the same physical frames every day. Same chair, same desk, same posture, same view. Over time, that consistency becomes stagnation, and stagnation kills emotional clarity. This habit, changing your physical perspective once a day, is about breaking the rhythm of autopilot. It's a physical metaphor for a mental truth. If you want to see your life differently, start by standing somewhere new. Even in your own home, a shift in posture can become a shift in perception. Sit on the floor with your back to the wall. Lie on your back and stare at the ceiling. Rest your head on a windowsill. Move into a different room and do nothing there for 5 minutes. It sounds small, but it isn't. It's a declaration. I am willing to see this moment differently, and that willingness, even without answers, begins to loosen the grip of overthinking, fatigue, or emotional heaviness. From a neurological standpoint, novel environments stimulate dopamine, not necessarily extreme novelty, just something unexpected. The brain lights up when it senses change. It becomes more alert, more curious. And that alertness creates mental flexibility. It opens the door for new associations, new thoughts, new emotions. You're not just moving your body, you're creating space for your mind to breathe again. The Stoics practiced this differently, but with the same spirit. They believed that regular change, whether in travel, routine, or conversation, was essential to keeping the soul awake. They warned against the dulling effects of sameness. Seneca wrote, "Travel and change of place impart new vigor to the mind. But what if you can't travel? What if the change is small, even subtle? That's enough. That's more than enough. What matters is the intention behind the movement." Let's make this tangible. Imagine you've been stuck at your desk all day, feeling mentally sluggish. You get up, go to another room, lie on your stomach, and stare out a different window. Nothing dramatic happens, but your breath slows. A new thought appears. Your body relaxes in a way it hadn't for hours. You've changed your relationship to the moment, not by force, but by placement. Or maybe in the middle of an emotionally difficult day, you sit on the floor of your bedroom with your back to the door. You close your eyes. You don't do anything. You simply reposition. And in that stillness, your emotions shift from overwhelming to observable, not fixed, just softened. And if you want to go deeper, try combining this physical shift with a question. What am I not seeing? Or, if I looked at this from a new angle, literally and emotionally, what would change? The answers may not come immediately, but your willingness to ask is enough to start realignment. So choose one moment each day to interrupt your physical default. Change the height, the angle, the location, the posture. Do it not as an aesthetic or productivity hack, but as a mental reset. A quiet rebellion against numbness. A reminder that you are allowed to shift, and that shift doesn't have to be monumental to be meaningful. Ask yourself now, where do I always sit? Where do I always think? And what's one place I haven't paused in lately? Then go there. Breathe. Be still. Observe. Because sometimes the best way to change your mind is to change your view. 3. Wear a color that reflects your intention. How often do you get dressed without thinking, reaching for the same color, the same outfit, the same default mode of showing up? We treat clothing like routine, like armor, like an afterthought. But what if it could be something else? What if, instead of dressing for habit or external image, you dressed for intention, for alignment, for emotion? The colors we wear affect us more than we realize. They influence not only how we're seen, but how we feel. Color is vibration. It's energy. It interacts with your mind in subtle ways, calming, focusing, energizing, softening. And yet most of us don't use it as a tool. We just wear what's clean, what's familiar, or what we think others expect. But this habit, consciously choosing one color a day based on how you want to feel, can be a powerful, creative, and even emotional reset. You don't need to believe in color therapy. You just need to observe. How do you feel when you wear black? Strong, guarded, invisible? How about white, clear, open, exposed? Red might make you feel bold. Green, grounded. Blue, steady. Yellow, alive. There's no right answer, only your internal association. That's what matters here. Self-awareness expressed through form. The Stoics believed deeply in the power of intention. While they didn't speak about clothing in today's aesthetic terms, they cared about presentation as a reflection of inner order. They urged us to live simply, but also to live with awareness. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What if your clothing became a quiet, external reflection of that inner color? This habit isn't about fashion, it's about presence. It's about starting your day with a conscious question: how do I want to feel today? And then letting your body carry that intention, literally. Maybe today you want to feel calm, so you wear something soft, in blues or neutrals. Maybe you need confidence, so you bring in boldness, something red or structured. Maybe you just want to feel more you, and you choose the color that speaks without trying. Even if no one else notices, you will. That awareness alone shifts your state. It breaks the cycle of unconscious autopilot. It tells your nervous system, I am creating this day, not just enduring it. And each time you do that, you reclaim a little more power over your emotional tone. Let's be clear. This isn't about overthinking your wardrobe. You don't need a new closet. You don't need to impress. This is not performance. It's alignment. It's saying, today I honor how I want to show up, not just what's easy to reach for. If you're someone who struggles with mood regulation or who feels stuck in sameness, this simple habit can offer subtle relief. Because every small, intentional choice you make reminds your brain that you're not passive. You're present. You might even begin to notice patterns. Maybe certain colors drain you. Maybe others give you energy. Maybe you begin associating certain shades with particular values. Green for calm, black for focus, white for clarity. This becomes not just an outfit, but a ritual, a mood anchor, a visual mantra. And if you're unsure where to start, just experiment. Choose one day a week to dress with color intention. Name the feeling, choose the tone, put it on slowly with meaning, and then move through your day, noticing how it affects your posture, your interactions, your internal dialogue. You don't need to talk about it. You just need to notice it. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for what's familiar, pause. Ask, what do I want to carry into this day? And what color reminds me of that? Then wear it. Not for them, not for fashion, for you. Because when you dress with intention, you wear your mood like a quiet truth, and the day begins to follow your lead. 4. Reduce early morning decisions. How do you begin your day? With stillness, or with 1,000 tiny questions? Most people don't realize it, but their morning begins with mental clutter. What should I wear? What should I eat? Should I check my phone now? What's urgent? What can wait? These aren't major decisions. They're subtle, rapid-fire choices. But together, they drain you before the day even begins. This early depletion is what psychologists call decision fatigue. And it's one of the most silent, powerful enemies of clarity and emotional stability. Each decision you make uses up a portion of your brain's executive energy, and when that energy is spent too early on things that don't truly matter, you arrive at your most important tasks already tired, already foggy, already emotionally reactive. You're more likely to procrastinate, to snap, to numb out, to lose direction, not because you're undisciplined, but because you burned your focus on noise. That's why this habit is so powerful. Reduce early morning decisions, streamline your environment, prepare the night before, choose your clothes, set your space, plan your priorities, clear the clutter. The less you need to think about in the first hour of your day, the more space you create for being. The Stoics were obsessed with preparation. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself of what he might encounter, not with anxiety, but with acceptance and readiness. He didn't want to be surprised by life. He wanted to walk into it intentionally, and reducing mental clutter is one way to embody that mindset. Imagine waking up and knowing the clothes are ready, The coffee is set. Your phone is still on airplane mode. Your top 3 tasks are already written down. No scrambling, no noise. Just breathe. Space. Movement. That kind of clarity doesn't happen by accident. It's designed. And it pays off for the entire day. Here's why this matters for your dopamine and emotional well-being. Early stress lowers dopamine. It increases cortisol, which makes it harder to think clearly and feel motivated. But when your morning is simple, your brain gets the message. I'm safe. I'm in control. I know where I'm going. That feeling of confidence and calm releases dopamine in a sustainable, healthy way. You feel better, not because you've done more, but because you've done what matters with less friction. Let's make this even more tangible. Instead of waking up to 5 outfit options, pick one the night before. Instead of choosing from 7 breakfast ideas, eat the same nourishing meal for a week and free your brain. Instead of checking your phone first thing, leave it off until your inner world is set. You'll be amazed at how much lighter you feel, how much more mental bandwidth you suddenly have, how much more emotionally steady your morning becomes. And this isn't about perfection. It's not about rigid control. It's about creating margins for your mind to breathe. Because when your day begins in chaos, you carry that energy forward. But when it begins in simplicity, your inner voice gets louder. Your thoughts become clearer. Your choices become cleaner. So ask yourself tonight, what decisions can I remove from tomorrow morning? Is it laying out your clothes, prepping your breakfast, turning off notifications, writing your intention for the day before bed? These aren't dramatic shifts, but they create profound emotional impact. Because you're telling your brain, I'm not waking up to survive. I'm waking up to lead. And leadership, especially self-leadership, begins in the first hour. Not with action, but with clarity. Not with motivation, but with preparation. So reduce the noise, remove the friction, and let the first moments of your day belong to you, not to the clutter. 5. Use your non-dominant hand for one simple task. There's something strange and powerful that happens when you brush your teeth with the other hand, or stir your coffee, or open a door. It feels awkward at first, a little clumsy, maybe even frustrating. But behind that discomfort, something subtle and meaningful is happening. Your brain is waking up. It's paying attention. And in that small, simple switch, you've broken a pattern and invited awareness back into your body. This habit, using your non-dominant hand for one simple task each day, may sound silly, but it's a quiet neurological reset. Because most of our day is built on autopilot, we move, think, and react through well-worn pathways. And while that saves energy, it also creates emotional numbness, mental fog, and disconnection from the present moment. Neuroscience confirms this. The act of using your non-dominant hand activates new neural pathways. It increases brain plasticity. It lights up regions of the brain associated with focus, coordination, and attention. And, more than that, it disrupts the trance of automatic behavior, that mental sleepwalking that keeps you disconnected from your thoughts and emotions. The Stoics might not have used toothbrushes or utensils, but they understood this principle well. If you want to grow stronger, more present, and more aware, you must practice discomfort, especially the kind that doesn't come from drama, but from quiet discipline. As Epictetus said, difficulties show a person's character, and sometimes the smallest challenge, like writing a word with the wrong hand, can reveal just how little patience or presence we actually carry. Let's look at how this plays out. You wake up, and instead of brushing your teeth with your dominant hand, you switch. Suddenly, your brain is alert. You're not scrolling, not daydreaming, not worrying about work yet. You're simply present with the awkwardness of your own movement. You've pulled yourself out of mental noise and into physical awareness, and that's a powerful shift. Or maybe you're eating lunch and you hold the fork in your non-dominant hand, slower, clumsier, but more mindful. Or you reach for your phone and you unlock it with the other thumb, just enough resistance to pull you into the moment. These small shifts feel insignificant, but they ripple into your day, because awareness creates space, and space is where change happens. From a dopamine perspective, this matters deeply. Novelty, even small, safe novelty, increases dopamine. It tells your brain, something is new. Pay attention. And the more attention you bring to the present moment, the more emotionally regulated and mentally clear you become. You're not chasing highs. You're cultivating presence. This habit also has a hidden emotional benefit, humility. When you use your non-dominant hand, you're not efficient, you're not smooth, you're not impressive, you're awkward. And that's good, because we live in a culture obsessed with mastery and polish. But there's wisdom in becoming a beginner again, even for 30 seconds a day. It softens the ego, it opens the mind, it brings you closer to yourself. So start small, don't overthink it. Pick one task a day: brushing, stirring, typing one sentence, opening a door, turning on a light switch. And notice what changes, not just in the movement, but in your attention, in your breath, in your mental chatter, in the way the moment feels a little more yours. You might be surprised how something so small can create a crack in your usual rhythm, and how, through that crack, light starts to get in. Ask yourself now, where am I moving on autopilot today? And what's one action I can gently interrupt? Not to perform, not to perfect, just to wake up. Because sometimes the path back to clarity isn't through intensity, it's through discomfort so small, it wakes your brain without ever raising your voice. 6. Speak to yourself out loud for 1 minute. When was the last time you actually heard your own voice? Not in performance, not in conversation, but in raw, honest self-communication. We spend hours every day talking to others, responding, explaining, performing. But most of us rarely speak directly to the one person we carry with us every moment of our lives, ourselves. And yet, there is something deeply transformative and neurologically grounding about simply speaking your thoughts out loud, not affirmations, not forced positivity, not scripted mantras, just honesty. Take 1 minute a day, literally 60 seconds, and say what's real. Say how you feel. Say what you're afraid of. Say what you're proud of. Speak it into space. Not for the world, but for your own nervous system. Because when you do, you create distance between thought and identity. You interrupt the cycle of internal chaos and invite a moment of clear hearing into your inner world. Your brain responds differently when it hears language out loud. Speaking activates different neural circuits than thinking. It slows your thoughts. It forces structure. It reduces emotional charge. This is why therapists often ask you to say it out loud, because naming emotion is the first step to regulating it. And when that voice is your own, the effect is amplified. It becomes a mirror, a reflection, a form of gentle confrontation. The Stoics understood the value of reflection through journaling, but in moments of high emotion or fog, writing may feel like too much. Speaking, however, speaking is accessible, it's instant, it's raw. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, was essentially talking to himself on paper, but we can do it out loud and hear not just our thoughts, but our tone, our hesitation, our truth. Let's get practical. You're feeling scattered. You can't focus. You sit alone for a moment, place your phone face down and say, "I'm overwhelmed. I'm trying to do too much. I don't even know what I need right now. Maybe I just need to pause. Maybe I need to stop judging myself for being tired. Okay, I'm breathing. I'm still here." That's it. No performance, no perfection, just presence. You don't need an audience. You don't even need clarity. The goal isn't to solve anything. The goal is to release pressure by externalizing the internal. It's the same reason people feel lighter after a conversation, not because they found a solution, but because they spoke, because their pain was no longer trapped in silence. And here's the beautiful twist. Hearing your own voice becomes a grounding mechanism. You're reminded you exist outside your thoughts. You are not just your mind, you're someone watching your mind. And that separation, that's where emotional regulation begins. Try this for 1 minute each day, maybe during your commute, maybe while doing dishes, maybe standing alone in your room. Lower the volume of your expectations and raise the honesty. Say something like, "Today was hard. I'm still proud I showed up." Or, "I'm anxious and I don't know why, but I'm here." Or even just, "I don't have answers, but I trust I'll find my way." Your voice doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to be yours. Because when you hear yourself with honesty, you begin to build a new kind of trust. Not in being perfect, but in being real. So ask yourself now, if I spoke out loud right now without fear, what would I say? Say it, even quietly, even in a whisper, because the voice you ignore is often the one you need to hear most. And when you give it space to speak, healing begins. 7. Master 1. Mundane. Task with full attention. We often look for peace in lofty places, in retreats, in routines, in breakthroughs. But what if the doorway back to emotional balance was already in your hands? What if healing could begin with how you fold a shirt? In a world obsessed with speed and productivity, mundane tasks are dismissed as boring. Brushing your teeth, washing a plate, slicing fruit, making your bed. They're seen as chores to get through, not moments to be in. But the truth is, these ordinary tasks hold extraordinary power if we learn to meet them with full attention. This habit is simple. Choose one mundane task each day and master it, not with pressure, but with presence. Let it become your meditation, your anchor, your way of reminding yourself that clarity is not found in control, but in attention. That peace isn't some final destination. It's hidden in how you hold a moment. Let's take a simple example. You're slicing an apple. Instead of rushing, you slow down. You feel the weight of the knife. You notice the texture of the skin. You hear the crunch. You place each slice on the plate like it matters. Not because it has to, but because you chose to let it. Suddenly, your breathing softens. Your mind stops spinning. You've created space without trying to escape. You've returned to now. From a neurological perspective, this is powerful. When you bring full attention to a task, your brain calms its survival circuits. It shifts from the restless dopamine-seeking loop to a deeper, steadier rhythm. You're not chasing stimulation. You're grounded in what is. And that's where real emotional regulation happens. You're not being pulled by past regret or future anxiety. You're simply here. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed in doing every act, no matter how small, with virtue and presence. Epictetus said, Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Folding clothes with care, that's Stoicism. Wiping a surface mindfully, that's discipline. There's dignity in small acts, because when done with attention, they become art. This habit also rewires your relationship with time. Most people rush through small tasks because they see them as interruptions. But when you master one simple action each day with full attention, you flip the script. You create a pocket of slowness in a fast world. You stop treating life like a checklist and start treating it like an experience. And here's the emotional impact. Presence becomes a pattern. When you practice it in small tasks, it spills over. You listen better. You speak more intentionally. You stop multitasking in conversations. You begin to live like each moment matters because you've trained your nervous system to believe that it does. You don't need to light a candle or play soft music. You don't need to make a ritual of it. Just choose one task and do it like it matters, like it's the only thing on earth that needs your full attention for the next 2 minutes. Maybe it's drying a dish, or lacing your shoes, or wiping a mirror. It's not the task that changes you, it's how you show up to it. Ask yourself now, what is one ordinary task I always rush through? What would it feel like to do it with full attention, as an offering to my own clarity? Because mastery doesn't begin in grand gestures. It begins in how you fold the towel, in how you make tea, in how you return to yourself, one simple moment at a time. 8. Read just one line from a book you love. In a world flooded with content, we've forgotten how powerful one single line can be. We binge podcasts, skim articles, highlight whole pages of books, and yet we often retain none of it. Why? Because we're consuming more than we're integrating. We chase quantity over quality. And in doing so, we miss what wisdom really is, not information, but transformation. And transformation begins with one truth, deeply felt. This habit is almost deceptively simple. Read just one line a day from a book that means something to you. Not a whole chapter, not a list of quotes, just one sentence, one phrase, one truth. Let it hit you. Let it stay with you. Let it echo in your mind throughout the day. Because when you truly absorb one powerful line, it can shift the entire course of your inner life. The Stoics lived this way. Their greatest works weren't novels or manifestos. They were short entries, small fragments of thought. Marcus Aurelius writing a single paragraph on discipline, Epictetus offering one sentence on desire, Seneca crafting one phrase on courage. These fragments have outlasted empires, not because they were long, but because they were true. There's something almost sacred about choosing one idea and letting it accompany you through the day. It becomes a lens, a compass, a mirror, a question. Maybe it's a line like, "The obstacle is the way." Maybe it's a reminder like, "You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to." Or perhaps it's poetic. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." You don't need to memorize it. Just feel it. When you read a single line with intention, your brain slows down. Dopamine is released, not from stimulation, but from meaning. You shift from input to reflection, from consuming to connecting. That one line becomes something to return to test throughout your day. You begin to notice where it applies, where it challenges you, where it supports you, and the emotional impact. Grounding, anchoring. We often underestimate how scattered we feel simply because we haven't chosen a thought to carry. We let the world choose our focus for us, headlines, arguments, scrolling. But when you consciously choose a line to hold, you reclaim your mental environment. you plant something in the soil of your mind and let it grow quietly. This practice also cultivates patience. It trains you to find satisfaction in less, to go deep, not wide, to remember that the right idea at the right time can do more for your soul than 100 pages of inspiration that never touched your core. So make it a ritual. Keep a favorite book near your bed or on your desk. Don't plan it too much. Just open it and stop when a line grabs you. Read it slowly, maybe out loud, and then close the book. Carry that line into your actions, your tone, your choices. Let it walk beside you like a quiet teacher. Ask yourself, what would change if I stopped chasing more and let one truth be enough? Because sometimes one line, truly heard, truly felt, can realign your entire day, not because it gave you something new, but because it reminded you of what you already know. 9. Sit somewhere you've never sat before. What if your environment, the literal physical space around you, is shaping your thoughts more than you realize? We like to believe that thinking is purely internal, that emotion, perspective, clarity all come from within. But the truth is, where you are influences who you are in subtle but profound ways. And most of us live in patterns of place. Same couch, same chair, same angle of the room. Over time, those patterns create grooves in our mind. And while they offer familiarity, they often bring stagnation. This habit is simple. Each day, choose to sit somewhere new, not somewhere fancy, not far, just different. Maybe it's the floor of your living room instead of the couch. Maybe it's a stool in the kitchen you never use. Maybe it's outside, on a step, under a tree, or in the corner of your room you've never noticed. The goal isn't comfort, it's interruption. The goal is to remind your nervous system that change is possible, even without leaving your house. Because when you change your physical position, you invite new perception. Your eyes land on different objects, your ears catch different sounds, your body shifts, and with it, your thoughts follow. A new seat can become a new lens. A new lens can lead to a new insight. That's the beauty of the subtle. It seems small, but it moves mountains from beneath. This practice aligns perfectly with Stoic principles. The Stoics didn't romanticize their surroundings, they simplified them, but they also believed in changing perspectives. Epictetus taught that the mind is what gives events their meaning, not the events themselves. And sometimes, to shift the mind, all you need is a new physical frame. Let's bring this to life. You've had a long day. Your thoughts are racing. You usually collapse on the couch, but tonight you choose to sit on the floor by the window. You turn the lights low. You breathe. And something shifts. You're no longer in default mode. You've told your body, this moment is different. I am open to seeing it differently. That small shift creates space, and space is what emotional clarity needs most. You might not get an epiphany. You might not feel anything at all at first. That's okay. The power isn't in what happens. It's in why you did it. Because you chose presence over pattern. And presence is what breaks emotional loops. Here's another layer. Your mind stores emotion in physical association. If you always cry in the same corner of your bed, that space becomes emotionally charged. If you always rush your mornings from the same kitchen seat, that seat becomes associated with tension. By choosing a new seat, you free yourself from those associations. You say, I don't have to repeat the past. I can create new energy here. And over time, this becomes a practice of self-dialogue. You ask yourself, where do I feel stuck today? And where can I physically move to reflect change? It's not about escape. It's about honoring the mind-body connection. It's about making your environment an ally in your emotional healing. You might even discover that different corners of your space hold different emotional tones. One becomes a place for stillness, another for reflection, another for energy. Use that, shape that. Let your environment support the kind of inner state you want to cultivate. So tomorrow, or even right now, look around. Ask, where have I never sat before? What space have I ignored, overlooked, dismissed? Then go there. Sit. No phone, no task. Just sit. Listen. Let the unfamiliar angle give your mind something new to notice. Because when your body moves to a new position, your spirit often follows. And sometimes all it takes to feel different is to sit somewhere different. 10. End your day with a whispered gratitude. The world ends each day with noise, notifications, unfinished tasks, overthinking, the hum of a mind that doesn't know how to shut down. And so we carry that noise into our sleep. We lie in bed replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, judging ourselves for what we didn't do. But what if the way you end your day could become a ritual of return, a soft place to land, a final act of presence that whispers, "It was enough." This habit is as quiet as it is powerful. Each night, whisper to yourself one small thing you're grateful for. No journals, no lists, no pressure, just one moment, one thing, one breath of acknowledgement before the day closes. It doesn't have to be profound. In fact, it's better when it's not. Let it be the warmth of a cup of tea, the sunlight on your face this morning, a sentence someone said, a moment of laughter, a breath that came easier than expected. This isn't gratitude for performance. It's not about forcing positivity. It's about grounding your nervous system in something real. Because the brain, especially in the moments before sleep, is vulnerable. It's listening. And what you tell it in those final minutes shapes how you rest, how you process emotion, and even how you wake up. Gratitude doesn't erase difficulty, but it balances the emotional scale. It tells the mind, yes, the day was hard, but not only hard. And that whisper creates space for peace. The Stoics spoke often of death, not as fear, but as context. Memento mori, remember, you will die. But in that remembrance, they didn't fall into despair. They became more alive, more present, more grateful. Marcus Aurelius reflected nightly on the impermanence of time, not to feel fear, but to return to what mattered. And what matters most is often small, quiet, easy to miss. That's why whispering gratitude works. It's not performance, it's presence. It's not for social media, it's for your soul. Let's make this practical. You lie in bed, lights off. You've already done too much. You're tired. Instead of reaching for your phone, you place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I'm grateful I didn't give up today." Or, "That sunset reminded me of something beautiful." Or simply, "I got through it." No one hears it but you, and maybe that's what makes it sacred. Over time, this whisper becomes a signal to your mind. It's safe to let go now. You're not denying the hard things. You're just choosing not to let them be the only things. And from that choice, made in silence, under breath, peace begins to root itself in your system. Even if the day was chaotic, even if you feel like you failed, even if you're hurting, whisper gratitude anyway, not as denial, but as devotion. To the part of you that's still here, still trying, still capable of noticing the light between the shadows. So ask yourself, tonight and every night, what's one small thing I'm glad I experienced today? Then speak it, softly, truthfully, just once. Because the day doesn't need to end with perfection. It only needs to end with presence. And sometimes that quiet whisper is more powerful than anything else you said all day. You don't need to change your entire life to begin healing. You don't need a perfect routine, a clear plan, or a breakthrough moment. What you need is presence. A return to the small, the subtle, the sacred, the gentle habits that whisper instead of shout. Because the real reset doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing less, but with more attention, with more care, with more soul. These 10 habits aren't hacks, they're not trends, they're invitations. Invitations to pause, to notice, to honor your mind and emotions, not by fixing them, but by listening to them, respecting them, realigning with them through daily acts of quiet power. The Stoics taught us to live with clarity, to train the mind, to meet the world with strength, not just physical, but philosophical. And this strength, it's found in how you begin your day, how you sit, how you speak to yourself, how you end the day with presence instead of pressure. So let this be your reminder. You don't have to wait for peace. You can practice it in your breath, in your posture, in your clothing, in your gratitude. And each time you do, dopamine begins to flow, not from stimulation, but from simplicity, from returning to the moment, from choosing to be here, fully, quietly, intentionally. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's been feeling overwhelmed. And if even just one of these habits helped you feel a little more like yourself, that's where transformation begins. Take the smallest one, start there, and remember, sometimes the most powerful healing begins with one honest minute of awareness.